Hello, everybody, and welcome to the South Florida Power BI user group. My name is Adriano, your host, and tonight we are gathered here together again for another great presentation where we will be learning about creating the
Hello,
perfect
everybody, and
Power
welcome
BI
to the
data
South
model
Florida Power
by
BI
Sheb
user group.
Rehman.
My name is Adriano,
Now, if
your
you can
host,
take a minute,
and
please let us know
tonight
where are you
we are
located
gathered here
at.
together again for
Use the
another
live
great
chat
presentation
and enter your location
where we will
right
be
now.
learning about
So, as you
creating
can
the
see the name,
perfect
we're in
Power
South Florida.
BI data model Power
By
BI Sheb
and
Rehman.
before we get started as
My
well,
name is
take a
Adriano,
minute,
if you can take a minute,
like,
and
please let us know, subscribe to
where
the
are you
channel,
located at? Together again for
use the
another
live
great
chat,
presentation.
and enter your and click the bell. So, like I said, remember to subscribe, like, and click the bell. So now, as you're entering the location, let's take a look here on the chat and see. All right, folks, you already entering here. Awesome. Awesome. I'll be getting in touch with you all in just a minute. So type it in where you're at. In the meantime, let's bring in our distinguished presenter. Hi, Sheb. How are you?
Hello, Adriano. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you
Good,
very
good.
much for
Thanks.
making the time to be here with us, prepare some awesome material that I believe
Yeah,
everyone
definitely.
going to like it.
I hope so. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me. So, yeah, it's been a long time coming. I think we tried to organize this quite a few months back, didn't we? But finally, we've managed to settle on a date today. Right now, we'll be creating the perfect Power BI data model live on YouTube.
Awesome. Very good, very good. And we are definitely very excited to see that. And before we get started, let's take a look here. As we are bringing you, and where are you located at, Sheb?
So I'm based in Leeds. So Leeds is in a lovely rural area called Yorkshire, right in the middle of the UK. So I'm about 2 hours, about 4 hours from London, which then takes me to the end of the country, and I'm 4 hours from the other end of the country as well. So we're right bang in the middle of the UK today.
Awesome, very good, very good. So here we have Sheb in the UK, and let's take a look at here. Hello, Pratik. Hi, and we have Chris W.
Hi everyone. Hello. Thanks for joining.
All right, thanks for the heads up, Chris, about Meetup. I'll take a look in just a minute. And thank you all for. Oh, we have Mr. Z. Can't wait to begin. All right. Sounds familiar, that Mr. Z.
Yeah, Mr. Z. He's the one and only Z
All
from Leeds. Yep.
Hello, Gina. Thanks for the heads up. I think we have take care of that with the echo. Please let me know. And Gina is in Florida here. Thank you for the support there, Gina. And we have Pravraj
Hi, Gina.
from. So Kavi is from India. We have there we go, Darren from Dublin.
Dublin.
All right.
Very nice. Very
Yeah.
nice.
And Chris just confirmed the no more echo. All right, that is done. Thank you. Y'all can hear us crystal clear. Can see us well. We
Yeah,
have
yeah.
and we have Juan from Mexico. Hola, Juan.
Hello, Juan.
Chris from Portland, Oregon. Mr. Z Riemann here from Leeds, UK.
Yep, representing Leeds.
All around, man. That is truly awesome. Just yeah, Gene, I agree with you. It's truly awesome to see, have people here, North America, Europe, Asia. I mean, we can just talk about continents already. The number of countries coming
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. And I think the upcoming big event that we're planning as well. I think that's going to be even bigger, have even more people from around the world. And that's going to be a huge event coming up. So really looking forward to that. I don't know if you want to tell the guys a bit about it now.
Absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up. So, folks, uh, Power BI Fest. Just we it will happen. It's a virtual conference that will happen on November 20, Thursday. Saturday, November 20th. So mark your calendar and just keep the lookout. You will see a lot of promo from if you follow me on LinkedIn or uh, also following here. Sorry about
Yep.
that. Or follow
It's all
Sheb here from on LinkedIn. Follow me on Twitter, etc. You will see the posts if you have not done so about Power BI Fest, and you're gonna see we have a lot of great presenters. The same aspect of bringing community together from around the world. We are getting individuals, or better said, presenters from 6 different continents. All right, mind you, there are only 7. So if you're in Antarctica and you are a presenter, please hit me up. Okay, so we can get someone from literally around the globe. All right, so everyone out
yeah,
there in
yeah.
Antarctica, hit me up. Let me know if you want to present on a Power BI topic.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah, it is going to be a great event, and it's going to start all the way over in Australia, isn't it? And we're going to sort of work our way from 8 o'clock in the morning Australia time, and we're going to try and move our way all the way around the world, back over to Europe and the US as well, and have presenters throughout the day from all over the world as well. So anybody in any continent at any time can join and watch a presentation on Power BI, and it's going to be amazing. Power Platform, should I say? And it is going to be incredible. So yeah, really looking forward to that. So yes, everybody look out for the communications on that online.
Exactly, and I have already started and sharing in the South Florida Power BI user group on our meetup. If you are watching us either right now live and or after this presentation, just check out the comment section below and you will see a reference to the South Florida Power BI user group meetup page, as well as the information here about Sheb, his contact, his, I believe you have LinkedIn here as well. So reach out, contact him if you have any questions, drop in the comments below afterwards. If at any time during this presentation you have a question, just use the live chat. Yes, you're required to subscribe, but use the live chat, enter your questions.
Yes, ask away, and then hopefully as I go along, I can answer those as well. So yeah, periodically I will ask for any questions anytime.
All right. So before we get started, just want to finish here acknowledging, wow, Florida is invading the room here. Check that out. We have Rodrigo from Miami. Hello, Rodrigo, and welcome, Reynaldo. Yes, fellow from the group here too. We have some meetings here. Thank you, Reynaldo. He's saying from rainy and wet Florida. It has been such over the past few weeks.
So really, wow, when I went to Florida for a couple of years ago, and what an amazing time that was. I went to a place called Destin, Pensacola, that sort of area. So north of the sort of Gulf of Mexico. What an amazing place. I mean, such beautiful seas and sands and people and food and fresh fish. Yeah, I can't believe it's raining there at the moment. It's absolutely freezing over here in the UK.
Yeah, we have this. It's an active time right now because of the storm. So, but most of the time we have it rains and then it moves away. So, which is
Yeah,
positive. It's not
yeah.
a full day of rain. That is positive there. And we also have Arnoldo, I hope I'm pronounced correctly here in Fort Lauderdale. Welcome, Arnoldo. Gwen Soto.
From
Wow,
Cuba.
for real? Wow, congratulations here, Gwen Soto, Cuba. All right.
Cuba, we were just talking about Cuba as well.
Yes, indeed, before we get started here.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just telling Sheb that we are, if as you reach Marathon, which is, I'm sorry, Key West, which is the extreme south of the country and the state of Florida, you are about 90 miles away from Cuba, and in a clear sky and a clear day, we can actually see, on the
See,
horizon,
that's
Cuba on the
amazing.
horizon. Yeah.
That's amazing, yeah. But no Cuban
Yeah.
cigars for you. No Cuban
Nah,
cigars.
no. That's a no at this point. All right.
Brilliant.
Oh, he's from Cuba, but he is in Hallandale. All right. So, which is a city just down south from here.
Cool, cool.
All right. All right. We have also Nemiko from Mostar, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Welcome. Welcome, Nemiko.
Oh,
Awesome. That's really exciting to see that.
it is.
And
Quebec.
yeah. And if you are watching us after the live session, please enter your location in the comment section, and representing that where you're from. We are very interested in see where the community coming from, where located, and
Yeah,
everything. Really
yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah.
What do
Because
you
it's,
think,
it's
Seth?
yeah, yeah, definitely. Because working, I've worked with, it's really strange how people in different places, analyze and review data. I worked for a global company once, and they had an office in Europe and they had an office in the UK working on the same data, but when I went to create reports for them, they were focusing on totally different KPIs and totally different analysis to a different place. And it's amazing how just a different location changes the way people look at reports and analyze data. And so, yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to sort of see what people are doing around the world.
Well, that's quite peculiar and interesting as well to see
Mm,
that, the data points will be different by, one will observe on a certain area. They may not necessarily be the same data points that someone in a different part of the world may be looking at.
yeah, yeah, because customer behavior is different, the lifestyle is different. So many things are different and so many things can affect the data. So it's really interesting, especially working for a global company like that, to see how they analyze and distribute data in various places.
Very cool. So, folks, if you're out there, you're watching this presentation, and at any time you see this, you have a question there, he may be covering something that is not particularly in your area or an area that you want to explore, also let us know. Use the live chat, and or afterwards, drop a comment.
Yeah, definitely,
All,
definitely.
all right, so let me just do a last pass here so we can get started. And we have the last one was Guilherme Hallandale, as I mentioned, was from here. Oh yeah, the gentleman from the person from near Minko. All right, from Bosnia and Herzegovina. We have look at that, Christian, Kingsley Falls, Quebec. Hope I'm pronouncing that correct. I was at debate whether to say Quebec or Quebec. So you know. Yes, Fernando, we are getting started. And just to finalize here, we have Paula. Paula from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Yes, I know Messi. All right, and Sheb can tell you about that because if you don't know, he also has tell us about your dashboard. I will actually let you talk all about it. The
Which dashboard are you talking about?
talking about the what do you call it, the league?
The football dashboard.
Yes, very cool,
Oh,
folks.
okay. I think we can come to that at the end of the
We'll do that
session
then.
when
We'll
we do
circle
yeah,
back.
I think so. Yeah, I think everyone's here to see a perfect data model in the first instance. So
All
let's give
right.
them what they want.
So, without further ado, and I'm gonna Let Shep take away. How are you, man?
Cool. So I'll share my screen with you.
Yes, please. All you have now is a full screen of you here.
Full screen of me here. Brilliant.
And
Hi, everyone. Okay. Well, if you can share my screen at the same time, then I can share my slides with everyone here. And just whilst you do that, I can sort of introduce myself. So my name is Sheb, and I've been, I guess, a BI professional for a long time now, since sort of 2008. I've been working with BI, especially Microsoft BI. Started off with SSRS, and I don't know if anybody remembers the tool set called Performance Point, which is an early sort of Microsoft tool as well for reporting and cubes. Then went on to sort of Power View and Power Pivot and all the sort of Power sort of platform that Microsoft started creating. I think they even bought a company called DataZen at one point as well, which was to rival, Click and Tableau. But then more recently, since 2015, of course, we've had Power BI, and I've sort of been engrossed in Power BI ever since. The sort of the things you can do with it now is incredible, and the rate at which it increased, of course, it's amazing. So I've been working with local, national, and sort of international sort of clients as a consultant for those sort of 10 to 12 years. I'm a Power BI trainer, so I do a lot of training events around Power BI. A Power BI speaker, so speaking at events such as this and other local events as well. I'm the co-organizer of the Leeds and Manchester Power BI user group. So, Adriano came and did a talk for me, last year. And so returning the favor, I'm here to sort of present for him as well. And alongside, I run a YouTube channel as well. So I've got periodically sort of upload videos that might be useful. So check those out. I'm sure the link will be provided to you soon as well. And since we started lockdown, I started running a webinar series called Power BI Lunch and Learn, which is really cool as well. We're in our sort of 4th season coming up to that soon as well. Okay, so that's enough about me. So what are we doing today? So today, essentially, we are creating the perfect data model in Power BI. Okay, we're going to run through the background to data modeling, what it is, why we're using it, and what the sort of types are. Then we'll be starting a demo from scratch. So starting a totally sort of clear Power BI sort of report. And I'm going to import data from a single flat file source. Okay, and even though it's a single flat file source, we're going to apply some advanced query techniques to this using the query editor. And you might think, oh, it's a single file. How easy is that? Yes, it might seem easy, but what we're sort of focusing on is the sort of techniques and the sort of different applications you can sort of apply these sort of skills to once we come to it, and these different tool sets that are available in the Power Query Editor, you can apply those to your own data set and see how that could advance your reporting as well. Okay, now essentially we're going to reuse our data within the data model to then create a nice star schema data model for ourselves. Okay. So what is a data model? So essentially a data model is a visual representation of a data storage solution, so where things are sort of kept. And you can see it as equivalent to a sort of blueprint for a property. You plan things out properly and you lay things out properly before you actually sort of start the build. And generally they sort of build around source systems and business requirements. If you think about a CRM system, for example, a lot of it's, out of the box, but a lot of customization takes place, within those CRM systems based on business requirements and so on and so forth. And so the data models are sort of extended and built upon, and you can get conceptual sort of models and logical models, all sorts, and ideally those change with the business rules and the business requirements as they sort of grow. Okay, now those data models aren't the correct data model for reporting. They are relational models used for source systems just for storing and retrieving data for that particular source system. Okay. So what types of reporting data models are there? Okay, now there's a couple that we want to focus on here. Okay, the main one is the star schema and Snowflake schemas that we've got. Okay, Now, the star schema is a mature sort of modeling approach, and it's widely used within the industry. And someone called sort of Ralph Kimball, I think his name was, he came up with this concept almost 30 years ago, and ever since then, professionals and business users and data specialists have been using this sort of schema and this this approach to sort of modeling ever since then as well. Okay, so this guy must have been really sort of ahead of his game at the time. It was 30 plus years ago, and people still sort of using the same concepts today as well. And it's based around the concept of having a dimension table and fact tables. Dimension tables, describe the business entities of the things you sort of model. For example, your products, your dates, your employees, your customers, your locations, and then those they surround fact tables, which store observations or events such as sales, orders, stock balances, exchange rates, temperatures, and other sorts of dates and keys as well. And the idea is to create a sort of star shape with that data, with the fact in the middle and the dimensions surrounding it, with a single sort of relationship between the two. Now, the other option, or the other sort of schema, is a Snowflake schema. Excuse me. And this is more of a sort of set of normalized tables for a single business entity. Now, for example, you can have, if you can see one of the images there, you have like a product, which then has a link to a subcategory, which then conversely has a link to a product category as well. So you can see how it's sort of snowflaking off away from the central table, which is a fact table. And the sort of category, for example, you can see it's 3 or 4 relationships away, which just means that in a reporting model, it loads a lot more tables. Takes up perhaps in some instances takes up less space, but can also take up sort of more space as well, depending on what sort of normal form you go to as well. Longer relationships, they're usually less intuitive, and it's difficult to create sort of hierarchies as well. If you can imagine sort of trying to create a product hierarchy from 3 different tables into one, it's going to be sort of quite challenging for you as well. Okay. And there's so much more. It's not just that. There's things that we need to look at that surround data modeling, such as sort of normalization. And if you think that when you have a flat file, which we're taking, that is totally sort of denormalized. So what we want to do is normalize it to a degree where it creates as a nice sort of star schema from that. Okay, there's things like slowly changing dimensions as well, which you can sort of incorporate. And slowly changing dimensions essentially changes part of the data, but in some cases keeps that history. Okay, so let's say, for example, you have a database and you have a marital status change. Let's say, for example, and you update the database and replace single with married. If you ever sort of search that database, it would always just say married. Okay, in a slowly changing dimension, you keep a history or separate line for that sort of that record. So you have a second line that tells me when I got married, has a date stamp with it as well, and then the old one is just marked as sort of not visible. Okay, so it's still in the background, it's still there, but it's keeping a history and it's created a new record for me to show. Then I can go back and see when it was when I changed it over from sort of single to sort of married as well. There's also things like role-playing dimensions and junk dimensions, which sort of have where you have sort of yes/no answers and yes/no dimensions, true/false dimensions. You want to sort of keep those in a separate junk dimension and not always create a separate dimension for each of those. But there's so much more we can sort of go into into data modeling, but we want to just focus on this star schema that we're looking to create today. Okay. So today's session. So we're going to import data from a flat file, okay? And as I mentioned before, we're going to be focusing on the concepts. We're not focusing on sort of the data and how complex is it, the number of sort of sources we're doing. We're actually focusing on the different sort of concepts that we're working with here. Okay, we're going to review and understand the data set together, so see what we can do with the data. We're going to plan the model to see, what sort of options and what columns we can take out for dimensions and what other things we can do. We're going to create relevant data model entities with that, and then simply close and load the star schema and hopefully have that into our Power BI report. Okay. The scenario, so just a bit of scenario with our sort of data that we've got there. So sales data from Sheb's Office Superstore. So I've got Superstore, which is just exported some data from there. And I want to analyze data based on customer, location, products, shipping mode, and have some time intelligence in there. And that's important because when you create a data model or you create sort of the foundation for your report, you have to base it on requirements. You have to base it on what the company wants or what the end user wants, from that information. There's no good you making it up yourself. You should sort of base it on what they want to do with the data going forward. Okay, so at the moment in this instance, I've got no access to SQL, so we're not assuming that you have access to any other sort of third-party tools or data sets. We're only going to use Power BI to create this data model and use a sort of Power Query editor to do so. Okay, cool. So hopefully, I don't think I've got another slide after that. Go to demo. Okay, I will go to demo. So I'm just going to bring up my Power BI page. So hopefully that should be visible to you guys. Cool. So this is our Power BI report. So we're going to start totally from scratch. So I'm going to import a brand new workbook and we're going to get started. Okay. So I've got a few different files here. Excuse me. I'm going to start with this Sheb Superstore V star, and you can see it's the same file, but the size is different. So I've just got a lot more data in there. What I also want to sort of demonstrate is that we can make this or create this model based on, a sample of data. But if our data grows, if our dimensions change, if more options come into our dimensions, will the model still handle that, and will it automatically sort of update and refresh, without us sort of putting in any sort of manual intervention. So I'm going to demonstrate that does actually do that as well. Okay, so from here I'm going to import my orders table. So import my orders. There's also people, which I'll leave for now. Let's have a look at returns. Returns, we'll leave returns for the time being as well. Okay, so I'm just going to import this orders table, okay, and transform my data. Okay, cool. So let's have a quick look at this data set then. We've got our row ID here, we've got our order ID, we've got a few dates here. Okay, we've got a order time here, which has got a different type here. So as I go along, I'm just going to change these to the types that I need. So this is a time type which I need, and I'm going to replace that current step. Okay, now Power BI does this thing where you might have seen where it automatically changes type when you import a data set. Okay, so I'm going to replace this current data set, and that's just going to override what Power BI decided to do in the first instance. Okay, I've got my shipping mode, so I've got my shipping mode classes there, my customer ID, customer name, gender, so I've got some demographics there for the customer. Segment is based on the consumer, home office type segments, I think. Then we've got country, so country, city, state, postcode. So we've got, well, you can already see there, we've got a location sort of dimension that we can create from that. We've got a product ID here, category, subcategory, product name. So again, there's another example of a dimension we can create from this as well. Okay, and then towards the right hand side, we've got our sort of facts, our sort of sales, quantity, discount, and we've got our profit. Okay. Okay, cool. So generally what I tend to do is work from the right hand side to try and take every sort of, text value out of this main table. Okay, so I want to use this as my sort of fact table. So this orders table is going to be my fact table. I'm going to use the sort of basis of that to create a fact table, dimension tables around. Okay, so the first thing I can see is the product. Okay, now what I want to do is create a separate table. Now, generally, when you right click a single option, there's an option to add as a new query. Okay, so we can do that, add as new query. Now, we're going to cross off the last option here, so we just get back to our main data set. Okay, so the idea of just adding a new query was to simply sort of duplicate our sort of our data set there. Now I'm going to find my product details. Okay, so product ID, category, subcategory, and product name all together. So that is my sort of dimension. I'm going to right click and I'm going to remove other columns. Okay, so I'm going to remove everything else and just keep myself just those columns there. Okay, now from here, what I want to do is remove all the duplicates. Okay, so I'm going to use the option here in my sort of query editor to remove all the duplicates from that particular file there. Okay, now hopefully I now have a distinct list of sort of products. Okay, now I'm going to order this ascending. Then I'm going to click on this corner icon here, and then I'm going to add an index column from 1. Okay, now I'm going to rename this index column to product key. I'm going to rename my table to dim product. Okay, now essentially I've created myself a product dimension just there. Okay, now if I go back to my orders, okay, what I want to do is join this back onto this table and bring through the ID from the dim product. Okay, now I want to join on the bottom level of that hierarchy. So the bottom level of that hierarchy is going to be product ID. Okay, so I'm going to merge data. So merge queries from my home tab. I'm going to find my product ID, which is there. And I'm going to merge that onto my dim product, use my product ID. And you can see it's joined 2000 of 2000 in that table. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. And that brings through a table connection here. Okay, I'm going to expand that table connection, uncheck everything, and I'm just going to bring through my product key like that, and then click OK. So now I've got a product key connected to my data set. Okay, so my orders table. So this product key number 8, if I go back to my dim product, will correspond to number 8, which is this value here. Okay. Now, because I've got my ID through to there, I can then select all these product details, right click, and then I can remove those columns from that data set. Okay. So that's the sort of concept we're looking at here. Now we're going to move on to the next. So we've replaced our products with our product ID. We then move along and think, right, okay, well, what's next? We can see clearly that there's a nice sort of location dimension that we've got here with these sort of columns here. So again, what we can do is we need to duplicate this this query. So again, instead of there's so many different ways to do it. You know, you may know in sort of Power BI, there's a number of ways to do the same thing, similar to things you can do in Excel and other things. There's so many different ways, and there's no wrong way to do it. It's just whatever's your sort of preference. So I'm going to right click here, orders, and I'm going to duplicate that again. Okay. Now the first thing I'm going to do here on the right hand side in my apply steps, you can see when I duplicate my query, it gives me the merge queries and the other sort of steps that I applied previously. Okay. Now I don't need those for this particular dimension, so I'm going to right click on the merge queries and I'm going to delete until end. Okay. I'm going to delete that so it doesn't do anything. I just want the simple data set to begin with. Okay. Then I'm going to find my details for my location. So country all the way through to region. I'm going to right click and I'm going to remove other columns. Okay, so I've removed all the other columns. I'm just left with my country, city, state, postcode, region. Okay, now I'm going to use this icon here and then I'm going to remove the duplicates from this table again. So I'm going to remove duplicates from this table. Okay, and then I'm going to click on the same icon and then I'm going to add an index column and then I'm going to add that from 1. Okay, I'm going to rename that to location key. I'm going to rename my table to dim location. And then I'm going to go back to my orders. Okay, and I'm going to join my location back onto this table. So click on merge queries I'm going to find my bottom level, which is going to be my postcode. So it should only be one postcode per location, right? So hopefully this will work for us. Postal code, giving us a match, and selection has matched 2042 rows of the table. Click OK. And then we can expand that. And then we just want the location key from that expanded table right there. Click OK. And then that brings through our location key, which corresponds to our location. And because we've got our key, we can remove all these text values from our main fact table. So as you can see now from the right hand side, if we scroll to the left, we're starting to get rid of all the sort of text values, and that's the idea. We're trying to, declutter the sort of fact table and move this information to somewhere else where we can sort of manage it a bit easier and see what sort of options we've got there as well. Okay, so we've got a couple of options here. So we've got segment and we've got gender. Now, generally, if a sort of column or a potential dimension has 3 or less options, so you can see in this particular segment, home, office, corporate, consumer, there's only 3 options there. And then we've got gender as well. And in gender, we've got male, female, less than 2 options there as well. So together, these 2 could be part of a junk dimension. Okay. Now, what we can also have is another option, and again, this is where the requirements and that sort of thing comes into play, because we've got customer ID, we've got customer name, but I'm sure gender goes part in part with the customer, right? So essentially, we could have gender as part of the customer dimension as well, and keep that, with them. Okay, but just to demonstrate the sort of junk dimension, I'm going to sort of leave it here and put it into a junk dimension to see how we can sort of create that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that now then. So first of all, let's create a new query. So we're going to right click the orders and we're going to duplicate that again. And from the right hand side, we're going to find where we first merged the queries, and we're going to right click and delete until end. Okay, and then we're going to delete that. So we're starting with a base query again. And the 2 columns that we want are gender and segment. I'm going to right click and we're going to remove other columns. Then we're going to click on this icon here, and then we're going to remove duplicates. Okay, so we're just left with the sort of unique options that we've got there. Okay, now here we need to add a new column. So I'm here, we're going to add a new column, and I'm just going to call this, let's have a look, just GS, gender segment. Okay, and it's just going to be gender, and it's going to use ampersand, and inside quotes, I'm just going to put a pipe delimiter, and then ampersand again, and then segment. Okay, I'm going to take a copy of this as well, because I'll need to create this in the other table as well. So I'll take a copy of that and click OK. Now that's created my sort of unique key, I guess, for the whole table here. And if you had other junk dimensions, or another column that said perhaps true or false, etc., etc., then what you would also do is then concatenate that onto this added custom column as well. So you'd create a custom column and you'd concatenate until you get a completely unique sort of value for each row of data there. Okay. Now from here, I'm going to add in an index column. So I'm going to choose index from 1. And I'm just going to call this, I'll call it junk key. Junky. I didn't even plan to do that. That's pretty good. Okay, so we can rename this to dim junk. Okay, now let's go back to our order. So because we've got a dim junk and we've sort of created a concatenated column there, we need to do the same in orders. Okay, so let's come back to our order table, create a custom column. And all I need to do is paste what I copied before. And I'm going to call this the same thing, GS. Okay, click OK. And that's created my GS here as well. And that's going to be our connection now to the dimension table. So let's go to our home tab. Let's merge queries. Click on GS. From the merge table, we're going to select dim junk. And we're going to select GS here. Okay. You can see the rows are selected the same amount. Click OK. And that table that it brings through, let's expand that table. And the only thing we want is from here is a junkie. Okay, so select that, click OK, and that'll bring through our junkie. And then we can remove our GS that we created. We can remove our segment, oops, and we can remove our gender as well. So all three columns, we can right click and remove those columns from the table. Okay, so now you can see it's even getting even more and more closer to what we want. Okay, so create a nice junkie, and again, that's the only one that we'll have to, I guess, you'll have to sort of manually update. So if there's more junk dimensions that come into play that are added to the actual, fact table or the main source of data, then this is the only one that you'll have to come in and manually add in, because you do need to create a sort of, append the column with the added dimension, and then be able to join that onto the fact table as well. Okay. So let's go back to our orders and see what we've got left. Okay, so we've got dates, we've got times, we've got ship modes, etc. So customers. So let's carry on with this and do another one then. Okay, so let's do our ship mode. Okay, so shipping mode. So again, if you remember when we were going through our presentation just before, there was the thing about requirements. So one of the requirements in there was that they wanted to analyze data on the shipping modes as well. So if you're wondering whether to create a separate dimension from a particular column, just go back to the requirements and think, well, does the company actually want to analyze data around the shipping mode? And if the answer is yes, then you should create a separate dimension for that and not hide that in another sort of table as well. And a good example is location, actually. Now, location, you see, we again in the requirements we had the requirement to have a analysis by location, but we could actually, within our customer table, we could have a customer table and apply the sort of just put the country and the addresses next to each customer. Okay, and if we didn't want to sort of do analysis on country, then you could potentially do that as well. Okay, so let's go back to our ship mode. Okay, and again, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to remove everything from merge queries onwards to the end. Okay, and then I'm going to find my ship mode, right click, remove other columns. I'm going to remove my duplicates from this particular, so I've just got my distinct values there. I'm going to add in an index column from 1, and I'm going to call this ship key. Okay. And then I'm just going to call this dim ship mode. Okay, now I'm back to my orders, merge queries, ship mode, select my ship mode, click OK. And then I'm going to expand my table with a ship key only. And once I've got my ship key, I can go over to here and remove my ship mode from the table. Okay. Now, another thing that you might be thinking is that, okay, this seems a lot of work, to get this sort of model done. Is it really required? Do we actually need to do this? Why are we doing it? Isn't this going to make everything slower? But what you have to remember is that the refresh is going to take place in the background. So all this sort of transformations that we're doing right now, you won't ever see this once it's published and once it's sort of connected to the sort of refresh schedule. You won't ever see this happening, and it'll happen in the background, and it'll happen maybe once a day, or however many times a day that you might do it, and you generally won't see it happen. But the benefits that you get on the front end when you're actually using the reports and the reporting side of it, that's where the benefit comes. The performance, the speed, the efficiency of the whole sort of system, and it's extensible and it grows. So as it grows, it won't get any slower; it'll just get better. And Power BI loves this type of data model, and that's why we want to give it the best possible sort of model we can. Okay, so let's do customer. Okay, so we've got customer here and customer ID. Okay, so we can do the same there. So let's right click on one of these. So let's right click on add as new query just to duplicate that. Okay, and then from my applied steps, going to find my first major change, which is merge queries. I'm going to delete until end. Okay, so I've just got the basic data, and then I'm going to find my customer name and customer ID, right click and remove other columns. And you can see Claire Goot's got 2 values here, so let's remove the duplicates from here. Let's order this by ascending, and then let's add an index column from 1. Okay, so if a new customer came in, so someone, Adam Smith, for example, so they would, you can see in this particular sort of data set, we're removing the duplicates and we're sorting it, by sort of customer name. So if that customer came in, for example, tomorrow, we ran this tomorrow evening, that customer would appear in this particular list, below Adam Hart, and given a new ID of 4. So the ID may always sort of change, and it can change as well. And that's not the thing that we need to concentrate on. We just need to sort of focus on the front end and the data side of things. You just need to let Power BI and the data model do what it does in this instance, okay? Because when we join it back onto the orders and the fact table, it will always have the right sort of index for it there, okay? So let's rename this to customer key. And let's name this dim customer. Okay. Now this is the other thing as well. When you are renaming and naming columns in this sort of area, Power Query Editor, this also sort of adds towards the Q&A and the analyze functions that you get within Power BI as well. Okay, so when you name things properly, the end user, is able to search for that and ask questions of the data by using sort of standard sort of language. But if you have table names in here, for example, let's go to customer, and this was, TBL underscore customer underscore name. That's not really a friendly sort of column. So what we want to do is make sure that we are naming things correctly. We do give the proper names to tables as well. So when the end user comes to use it, they understand and they can utilize it, in the most efficient way as well. Okay, so let's go back to our orders table. Let's go to our merge queries. Let's click on customer ID, join that with a customer ID there. Click OK. Expand our customer, and we just want the customer key from that. Okay, so we got our customer key in there, and then we can go back over here and remove our customer details, remove columns. Cool. So let's have a look from the right hand side. You can see we've got no text values, no text values, no text values, no text values, no text values. We just got dates, and then we've got our order ID. Okay, so we're going to do one more on this order ID, and then we're going to move on to our dates. And I want to do something special with this order time as well, because what I want to do is analyze, because if you remember on our requirements, there were some requirements to sort of do some time intelligence. So it might not be exactly time, but more sort of trends, but there's a time option there. And I want to do some tricks and show you how we can actually create buckets, hourly buckets from this as well, which is quite cool. Okay. So order ID would generally be in an order table, and it'll have sort of main order header details in there. So because it's got text values in there, we want to remove that from the sort of main table as well, and also create a dimension for that, because we will be sort of focusing some tricks and show you how we can actually create buckets. So again, let's add as new query. And we'll remove everything from the top. Delete until end. Thank you very much. We'll keep just the order ID. We'll remove the duplicates from there. And then we'll add an index column from 1. So there's an option for index column at the top, and there's also an index column option in here as well. So various different places. And we're just going to call this order key. Order. And then we go back to our orders, home tab, merge queries, order ID, dim order, and then we'll pull through the ID, the order key from there. Now, another reason why we do this and why we're sort of replacing these text values with keys is that Power BI, when you think about Power BI and any other sort of, I guess, database system, when it's sort of analyzing and you're searching through various text values, it takes longer to search through a text value than it is sort of an integer or a number. So what we're trying to do is give it as much sort of, I guess, fuel, to make it efficient as possible. Okay, and these are just the little bits and pieces that takes milliseconds off, and takes milliseconds off before you know it. It's a really nicely smooth running sort of report. Okay, now from here we can take our order ID because we've got our details, and we can do that there. Okay, cool. So Adriano, how are you doing over there? Are there any questions? I'm just going to go and get some code actually, just from my machine. So I don't know if there's any questions that I can take at this time from there. Table with.
Hi, Sheb. Not particularly a question.
Yeah.
It's more
that's
an
fine.
engaging conversation regarding
Yeah.
the modeling. I know that Gina mentioned about it was interesting to create, what you say here? Interesting to create a surrogate key index, right? Instead of using the product ID. And I mentioned, that's one of the practices that people have. She uses a different type of approach where she takes the product ID to be the key there.
Yeah. Okay.
Then we have a conversation about Juan Lauro. He's talking about why, yes, indeed, a dashboard with a single flat file can be created, and then he outlines kind of the reasons why to use a model instead. So those are good conversations.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm just going to go to I've got a video here that sort of creates a date table using a Power Query function. And this is on my sort of channel, so you can go and have a look at this as well. But it's got a link to a Drive file here. Okay, and clicking on that, it just opens up a text file. And what we're going to do is just going to copy this code here. Okay, and you guys can do the same as well. We can provide the link for that later on. I'm going to come back to my Power BI report here, and I'm going to create a blank query.
We have a couple of questions whenever you have a minute, okay?
Yeah, we'll come back to it in a minute. So we've got our advanced editor here. Now, in our advanced editor, we're going to go in here, and we're going to replace that code and click Done. Now that's going to create me my sort of parameters to add in. So let me just double check my date and my orders. Okay, so order date looks like it starts from 2015 and goes all the way to 2018. Okay, so let's make it from 2015 onwards. So in my query here, I can say 0101/2015, and then I'm going to copy that, go all the way to 2021. Okay, and then I'm going to click invoke. Okay, and that's going to create me my whole date table just within seconds. So I've got date, year, quarter of month, financial year, financial month, quarters, day of month, int, month name, calendar, anything you want for a date table pretty much is there. I've even got ISO weeks and that sort of thing, periods 445, quarters 445s as well. So they're all in there for you to look at. So one of the things I need to do, because I think this is a slightly older link, I need to sort of select all of these options here. And this is a cool trick you can use actually. So I used to sort of click on each individual item, and I used to go here and I used to click on whole number and change that. Okay, but we can do that all in one go using the sort of transform tab at the top there. So we'll do that now. So I'm going to go through each of these. I'm going to select all the numeric values. So you can see month of year, financial year. I'm going to select financial month, financial quarter numbers. And this is all because I'm going to change these all to ints for ordering, so that when we do view our dates and in order, they don't appear in sort of text order. Okay, so select all these items here. And then from the transform tab, we can select the data type option here. And then I'm going to select whole number. And all of those are changed to whole number in one go, which is great. Cool. So this invoked function, I'm going to call this dim date. Okay, now got my dim dates. Let's go back to my orders. I can now connect my order date and my ship date onto those as well, and I can get the dates out there and use the sort of integers from there as well. So let's click on our home tab, merge queries, order date, dim date. Select our date, same about rows, click OK. And then from here, we're just going to select the date int. Okay, click OK. And then whilst we're here, let's do that again, because we're going to do the same again, but this time we're going to get the date int for the ship date. So we're going to click the ship date this time. Again, click on date, connect to date, click OK. Bring that through date int as well. Okay, so I'm going to rename these two so we know which ones they are. So this one was the order date int, and this was the ship. Okay, move over to the right left hand side, and then let's remove our order date and our ship date. Okay, so we're pretty much almost there. We've removed all of our text values from here. You can see we were started off with a sort of table full of them. We've reduced, taken everything out, used that sort of, you know, some nice sort of query editing sort of techniques to create sort of individual sort of IDs for each of those as well, and created separate dimensions for them. We've created a date table and connected that. Now, the other thing I wanted to do was create something with the order time. I wanted to create sort of hourly buckets from here as well. So another technique you can use here, you know, to do that. So first of all, I'm going to change this value to a text value. Okay, so I'm going to change order time to a text value like that. Okay, now I'm going to right click and I'm going to split column. I'm going to split column by a delimiter. I'm just going to do a colon at the leftmost delimiter. Click OK. So that's created me two sort of columns there. Okay, and again, Power BI does that thing where it changes the type, which I don't want it to change the type. So I'm going to just cross this type off. So I'll leave it as a sort of text value there like that. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to create a new column. So I'm going to add a new column, custom column. Okay. Now, from here, I'm going to call this our bracket. Okay. Now, it's going to be order time 1. Okay. Then I'm going to join that onto colon. Then I'm going to put another ampersand in here, and I'm going to join the order time 1 on again. Okay, I'm going to do ampersand. And then inside quotes, I'm going to do -59. Okay, so our bracket is going to be hour to hour 59. Okay, so if I click on OK, hopefully that will create me my bracket. So you can see it's created me sort of bracket from sort of 00 to 0, sort of 59. Okay, maybe it might be better to do it the other way. Let's have a look. So go back into my column. Let's put a dash here. Let's put column. Okay. Yeah, there we go. 17 to 17:59, 10 to 10:59. So we've got our sort of hourly buckets. We split the time up into sort of hours and minutes. We then use the hours to then create a bucket for that particular hour there. Okay. So now what I want to join on, I want to create an actual sort of dimension from this hourly bracket as well. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to duplicate this and do this again into a separate dimension, and then we can get our sort of hourly sort of bracket key as well. So the way we do this, let's right click and let's add as new query. Okay, now this is a new thing that's in Power BI as well. So click on the last one. So we've still got our bracket there. Okay, but what I want to do, I've got my hour bracket here, but then I've got all these sort of options that I want to delete beforehand. So what I'd usually do, what I've done in all the other ones, is right click on the top one and delete until end. Okay, but what I want to just do is move these items up a little bit. Okay, so let's have a look here. Is that going to be feasible with there being so many options above it? I think not. So let's have a look. So expanded dim date, rename columns, remove columns, change type 1. Okay, let's do it again. So right click and delete until end. Click OK. And we're going to keep our order time, so we're going to remove other columns. Okay. I'm going to change this to text. Okay. Then we're going to split that column. Split column by delimiter, colon. Don't let it change type. Go back to my orders and I can add my custom from here as well. Let's copy this across. Go back to my hour bracket. And then transform, add a custom column. Call it hour bracket. Click on OK. And now I've got my hour bracket there. I can then remove first two columns, remove duplicates. I'm going to order this ascending. So hopefully I should get my 0059 all the way to 2359. So I've got my full hourly sort of buckets there, just in one table. Add an index, because then we can order it. So when we do a time analysis, we can order it from sort of obviously early on to the sort of end of the day as well. Call that hour key. Okay, and then we'll call that dim hours. And then finally, we're going to join this back onto our bracket that we created earlier. Merge queries, our bracket, dim hours, click OK, and then bring that table through. Take the hour key, and then we can remove our I bracket from there, and remove these two time values from here as well. So now we have completely created our fact orders table, which I'm going to rename here and call it fact orders. Okay, so now I've removed everything from here. And remember, this only happens once or twice a day, behind the scenes. So all these transformations using the same thing over and over again, using the same query over and over again. It's only going to do this once a day, and it's going to be a lot more efficient when it comes to sort of the front end as well. Okay, so looking at here, we've got no sort of values left. I think we're almost sort of ready to now go and publish this. So let's go to close and apply. And then bring our data in. So hopefully, there's not many rows. It's around 2,000 rows, so it shouldn't take too long. But again, it's looking for that, creating that connection. It's loading it to the model. And so hopefully, once it's brought all that in, because we're using the same keys, we've created the connections within the model as well. It should create as our star schema, automatically. So as soon as we go and look at the model, it's already created as our star schema automatically, because we've created all those sort of dimensions, all those connections from the same IDs. Okay. Now I'm just going to move this along. The only one that isn't connected, you can see, is the dim date, but the reason being is that it's got two options in there. So there's two date ints, and the date int sort of isn't the same name either, whereas the ship key is the same as the ship key in the sort of fact table here. So we can decide which one we want to sort of create here. So the order date int key, for example, we're going to go here, where's our date int is there, and make that connection. And that's going to be our main data table. But we're also going to sort of going to sort of connect our ship date key as well. So let's find that ship key, not the ship key, ship date int. Goes to the date int, and that creates a connection there as well, but it's inactive, and that one we can use and bring alive with the sort of use relationship function within Power BI as well, and do added analysis, you know, on there as well. Okay, so that is the sort of perfect data model that Power BI is looking for. Now, what does that sort of bring to you? So that brings all the sort of things like, you know, all the sort of AI analysis within Power BI as well. So let's go, for example, and create a quick sort of chart. So I'm just going to create a quick graph here. So let's have a look. So I'm going to create a quick column chart, and then let's have a look at my fact orders. And generally, obviously, I would create sort of measures and other things, you know, for these as well. Okay, we've got our sales here as well. Okay, and we've got things like jumps in sort of places. But what we can do is, say, for example, we've got a jump in sort of a big increase in sales or a big decrease in sales here. Okay, and what we can do is sort of bring alive the sort of analyze features of Power BI as well, which now, because we've got a really nice solid data model, Power BI, you know, thrives on it essentially, and it brings out more and more analysis. And this analysis does sort of appear with sort of flat files and denormalized files as well, but not as sort of thorough as you would get with this. So now, you know, we're getting into, right, now I can jump in and out of every one of these sort of dimensions that we've created. And it's going through and it's telling us what the difference is between. So it's saying that tables and machines were the biggest sort of change in the subcategory. So it's looking at subcategory. It's now looking at state, and it's looking at the differences there. It's then going to a different, you know, day in week. So it's looking at the date table now, and again looking through the date table. It's then going into region, looking at the location table, showing us, well, central and west were the worst two for that sort of particular month. And look at this, you know, our junk dimension is mail customer, mail home office, and it's even sort of giving us analysis on our sort of junk dimensions as well. You know, and this is what Power BI loves, and this is how you sort of, you know, keep creating and sort of building and analyzing, and let Power BI do as much work as possible, because you haven't got all day to analyze reports and drill through and go through reports and understand what's happening and why it's happening. You know, so you want to give it the best data model you can by spending some time, you know, in the background, so that when it comes to Power BI and it comes to actually enriching your data and enriching your organization and making decisions going forward, and letting Power BI help you do that, you know, you're bringing out and you're letting it flourish by bringing out all these analyze functions and so on and so forth. And I talked about the Q&A as well, you know, show me the sales for you know, 2016 as bar chart. Sales 2016 by country. Let's change country to state or city. There we go, city. And then that creates me, so using natural language, you know, just show me. I even spelled show me wrong, show me. You can either sort of spell things wrong, but still it'll pick it up and it'll give you that data, and it becomes intuitive and it becomes easy for the end user to then sort of start using this, and they'll use these features even more if you make a better data set for the end user. And that's something that we forget to do a lot of the time. We don't build for the end user, we build for ourselves. We build our reports for us, And what we forget is that actually there's somebody on the other end who's non-technical, doesn't know Power BI, needs to be able to use these reports and create the reports and ask questions. So we shouldn't try and make it as easy as possible for them. And a lot of the sort of tables we've created, you can see they're quite clean. DIM sort of customer only has sort of customer name and key in there. But what we can also do, as you know, is we can sort of hide things like the customer ID and the customer key from here. So when we do publish it to the Power BI service, the DIM customer only has the customer name. So again, we're sort of giving the end user less chance of messing up or giving us a call, because the last thing you want is sort of end users calling you end day on day, hour on hour, telling us telling you that they can't do this or can't do that, or don't understand what to select in your particular report. So yeah. Any questions, Adriano? Sorry, you said earlier on there was a question, but I totally just rattled on, didn't I?
All right, let's take a look over here. So folks, remember, drop your questions in the live chat so we can relay here to the speaker. Let me take a look here. I see that Arnaldo Montes likes the demo, and he uses about 95% of your transformations in ETLs inside database or data source. Yes, Arnaldo, a lot of common patterns and practices being carried out, along with some really neat techniques that Sheb is sharing here specifically for Power BI here. Is that right?
Yeah. And that's the main thing, yeah, because what you have to remember is people don't always have access to SQL. They don't have access to SSIS or Alteryx or any of the other sort of integration tools. And so Power BI is the only option they've got. And so what I wanted to do is show that actually we can do the same thing, just as good a job in Power BI as well. And what you can also do with Power BI is create your data model within a Power BI file and then use that Power BI file as the data source. And that's something that not many people know, that you can actually just publish that report then to the Power BI service and then connect to it as a source. So you don't have to sort of create the same model over and over again. You can utilize it and sort of replenish it by publishing it online and connect it to in by using this Power BI datasets option at the top here. Okay, so that's another thing that people need to sort of just be aware of as well, that you don't have to just sort of use it for this particular report. You can save it and then connect to it from a different report as well.
Also, a couple of things I would like to thank everyone, and I'm actually ask everyone to also enter your comment and like the videos. Very important, principally the comment to help with the algorithm. You can see that Sheb has been delivering such a great presentation, so help others also find this information by dropping a comment, like the video as well. All right, back here. It's a good question here from Harris Khan. Can you please explain the scenario where one have multiple fact tables and most of them has different structure?
Okay. So if you have multiple fact tables and you have different structures, what you have to find is a common granularity within there. So if one is based on, a sort of, let's say locations. Okay, so if one's based at a sort of, bottom postcode level, but then you've got another set of data that's, at a state level, you see they're not going to sort of match up. So when you try and join those together, they're not going to sort of match up. So what you have to try and do is make sure both fact tables are the same in terms of granularity. And then when you've done that, that's when you can start to create the sort of data model around it, because what you tend to do is then reuse a lot of the sort of dimensions that you created and connect to both tables as well. So you never join the fact tables together individually. You always join the fact tables to the surrounding dimensions, but you can have multiple dimensions connecting to multiple fact tables as well. Okay, so hopefully that sort of answers that. But there's so many different scenarios, that we can sort of talk about in terms of that. And you probably have a specific one that you want to talk about. Without the details, it's difficult to go into that. But generally, granularity is a good place to start. Make sure that the data is at the right level in both fact tables or tables that you want, and then try to go through the same process of creating those dimensions, and even creating dimensions from each sort of fact table, and then merging those two together to create a sort of a master dimension as well. And again, that might involve creating additional tables and then hiding tables and merging tables together. So you have to go through that process. But again, once you do it once and it's done properly, it will be such a great tool to sort of use as well. Whilst we're there, Adriana, I'm going to demonstrate what I wanted to do is demonstrate the...
quick thing here, real quick, regarding that is... I would like, regarding the question about having more than one fact table, it generally happens on a more mature, how can I say, enterprise data warehouse. And that is because one of the situations I have seen is because you are setting up for different granular level for the facts that you have on each of the tables. Then you have the dimensional tables surrounding the fact tables, where you try to do those dimension tables, try to what's called a conforming dimensions, where you can share the single dimension on both fact tables, even though they have different granular levels there. So just a quick note to add there. So let's take a look. So what are you bringing over, Sheb, for us to see?
Yeah, so I was going to update the sort of data. So I said that I would do this at the beginning. So, what if now, okay, I've created my model, and now what I want to do is, add more data to it, add more dimensions. So here I've just created 3 visuals here. That one shows me the count of customer names, distinct customers. So you can see I've got 560 customers, I've got 338 postcodes, and I've got 17 sort of subcategories for products. Okay, so what I want to do is update the data and see if any of this sort of data changes and if it sort of brings through the additional, data that we've got. So I'm going to go to my transform data source settings, change my source. So this one I'm going to click on the final. So you can see here I've got my final, and this is just same data, but you can see the size is a lot bigger. Click on open, click OK, and then close. So let's see, 560, 338 are the 2 sort of figures that we're sort of looking at. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to apply these changes. Okay, and then there's hopefully now I should have 9,994 rows of data, and hopefully this the sort of numbers underneath here, the 560 and 338 should update as well. And whilst this is updating, it's going through that transformations of sort of copying things over, removing duplicates, adding index keys, joining things on. So that's why it's taking a little bit of time to do that. And you can see that it's evaluating and waiting for all the sort of other queries because it's doing this. But as again, I've mentioned before, this only happens, once, twice a day. So you never notice this type of thing happening. Excuse me. And people often ask me, well, how much time do you generally spend, editing your data? And I would say around sort of 70% would be spent doing the data, because if you get a solid, clean data model that's sort of easy to use, your reporting will be so much smoother and so much easier, and the analysis will just flow off the sort of screen as well. And that's essentially what you want. It doesn't take too much time to put visuals together and the sort of, there we go. So that's updated, and you can see, yep, so it's brought through more customers and it's added those in, it's given them a new ID as well. Postcodes, that's increased as well, we've got more connections. Subcategories is the same, because I think the same number of subcategories anyway, but the number of rows has gone over 10,000. So I think I've got an error here, Adriano, in my data. Shall we go and have a look? Have we got time to diagnose this? Because I think this might be a good good thing to do as well, because that's another thing when you come into doing data transformation, sometimes using Power BI to diagnose what's gone on is another key thing as well. So let's go through the process of what I would do generally to do this. So what's happened is that I've got 9,900 and let's just have a look at my sort of Excel sheet here. So I'm just going to open up my Excel just to sort of show you my Superstore model here. So look at my row ID. You can see I've got 9,995, and that's including the header. So 9,994 rows of data, and this is showing over 10,000. So there's an issue there somewhere. Now with my fact orders, so first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the option for count rows. Okay, and just to see where it's happening. Now this essentially counts rows, and you can see, yep, I've got over 10,000 rows. So somewhere along the line, one of these joins that I've made from my product or my location or something has joined onto the fact table and caused duplicate rows. Okay, so I'm going to move my count rows up to where I do my first merge query. Okay, so before my merge query, I'm going to count my rows here. So you can see there, 9994, correct. So if I go past my first merge query, an expanded dim product, let's see what happens there. Hopefully it should be the same. If not, then that's where our problem is within this dim product table here. Okay, so I'll give it a moment just to go through that. See the sort of little dots that are going across the screen. Come on, come on, come on. So Power BI still analyzing count rows, and that's another good thing that Power BI have done. You can move these sort of steps up and down, whereas before you couldn't, and you had to add in new steps and you had to remove steps. There you go. So you can see now the counted rows between those two steps there, the merge queries and the dim product, has sort of increased there. Okay, so now what we want to do is go back and have a look at that dim product. Okay, so I looked at this product here. Now we joined on the product ID, so I assumed, I guess that was unique. Okay, but it seems like it isn't. Okay, so the way I would do that here is click on product ID, and I would group by, and then with the group by, I would just do a straight count. So on the product ID, click OK. That will give me the count of each sort of product ID there. And if I click on this drop down, there you go. You can see already if I load more as well. Yep, I've only got sort of a couple there. So you can see that there's some that have two. So I'm going to click on that, and I can see that these are the sort of product IDs that are appearing twice. Okay, so what I would do then, I would right click, use my text filters and filter that down. Then I would drag this filtered up here, and just to see exactly which product it is. So now you can see it's this product here. Furniture, bookcases is the same, but look at the product name. The product name is completely different, and the product key is different as well, which we added. So you can see that the product name is actually different, but the product ID is exactly the same, which is strange. So let's go and have a look at this, another one then. So another option, let's have a look at this one here. So I'm going to right click, filter that, and then I'm going to move this up here. So filtered it before I grouped it. And then you can see again, yep, the sort of product ID is the same, but the product name is different there. Okay, so what we're going to have to do here, we're going to have to sort of, again, almost similar thing that we did with the chunk dimensions where we had to join and make a unique key. We're going to have to join the sort of product ID with the product name here. Okay, so we can amend this whilst we're here. So first of all, let's get rid of these last few bits and pieces that we did there. So now we found what the issue is. The issue is that there's a duplicate product IDs, okay, and product values there. So we need to put together product ID and product name. Now we need to do it before we sort of add in the index. So we need to either step up to our sorted rows where we've done it here, and then after this we need to add in a column. So we're going to add a custom column, insert that in here, and I'm going to call this PR. Okay, and then here I'm going to say the project ID. Then I'm going to concatenate that with pipe delimiter, and then go to product name in there. Okay, copy that, click OK. Now, because I added that in before the index column, okay, And then I'm going to add the index after that, so it gives it a new ID, and then rename the CODL to product key. Okay, so now hopefully I'm going to check this. So if I group this now, I go to my home tab, and I group by count of rows by PR. Hopefully I should just have one available in here. Load more. Yep, I've only got one value. So now I can confirm that there's a unique sort of value there, and I can use that now to join onto my fact orders. So I need to go back to my fact orders. Okay, I need to go up to where my did a count rows, didn't I? Okay, so I need to do it before I do this merge. So I need to step up and do it. Probably the first thing I do in here is going to be that change. Okay, so here I'm going to add in a column here as well. So adding custom column, insert, paste that. I'm going to call it PR. Okay, so product ID, product name. And then I'm going to step down to my merge queries. I'm going to double click on my merge queries and connect it up a little differently. So this time I'm going to connect my PR to my PR. And there we go. We've got the right number of rows here. Rows, sorry. Click OK. I'm going to then expand my dim product. And then hopefully it will realign and bring through the sort of right value for it there. Okay, so that's one of the ways that you can go back and start diagnosing, and you see how sort of straightforward it was. And this is what sort of modeling like this brings. It allows you to sort of analyze and sort of understand where your data is going wrong as well, and pick out these errored values and fix them quite sort of simply as well. Okay, so now I've done my expanded my dim rows. I can remove my counted rows from here because I've now got 9994, which I'm happy with. And then I can also remove that PR column as well from there. Okay, hopefully go right down to the end. That should give me my sort of values. I'm going to close and apply. And hopefully this 10K will change to 9994. Okay, and again, it's going to go back through the model, reconnect that dim project with a new connection that it's got, and hopefully bring through the right number of values. And there we go. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That is the perfect data model for Power BI. Okay, and it's taken us a sort of good hour to sort of create that, but you can see how much sort of explanation and sort of talking we did. But this can be done, in a much quicker time scale as well. Understanding the concepts around modeling is key. Understanding the requirements around what you're building and who you're building it for is another key thing around this as well. It's no good just understanding the data. You've got to understand the business as well and what they want to achieve from this particular report or this particular sort of data model. Okay, so yep, Adriana, if there's any other questions, I think we're sort of coming to an end on my side.
All right, looks good. I know that we do have a couple questions here, and let's get to it. Give me 2 seconds here. So remember, folks, got a question? Let's drop it here on the live chat. If you're watching us right now, if you're not with us right now, use the comment section below if you're watching this on a recording.
Yeah, and if you are watching on recording, still ask a question. We'll still come back to you. And if we do find any questions that we didn't answer or find, then we'll really sort of we'll come back and have a look at those as well. Let's have a look.
And also, one quick thing is, folks, remember, I see a lot of people liking it, and please drop a comment. Very important here for the algorithm to help us to get more visibility and share with even more people.
So we've got a question here. So is there a difference when between a custom column in Power BI and creating the same column in DAX? Which is more efficient way when it comes to performance? Okay, so I guess in that respect, again, it comes down to when the refresh and that sort of thing takes place within this data model. And essentially, when you create something in the query editor, it happens once. It happens at once in that day, or however many times it refreshes, and that's it. You don't see that again, or there's no sort of performance on that again. But if you do it in DAX, every time you sort of query that or use it as a filter or add it to a table or a chart, it's always sort of analyzing, it's always sort of querying that particular DAX query all the time. So that's going to hinder the performance a lot more than if you were to do it in the Power Query editor. So hopefully that answers that sort of question. And generally, I would do a lot of things in Power Query Editor, in the Query Editor as well, including the date table, as you just saw. Of course, you can create a date table with DAX and do that at the front end. But again, you're just utilizing sort of space and performance that something else or the other engine in Power BI can use for visuals and reporting. So you want to sort of take as much as that away from Power BI, the front end as possible. Okay.
All right. There's Juliet. She's asking, how did you zero in on the product DM table as the one with the duplicates?
Okay. So the way I sort of looked at that, so I went into my transform data. Okay, and now at each stage of this sort of fact or order table, I should always have the same number of rows. Okay, and what I did was use this option that says in the transform that says count rows, and at any point you can sort of click on the count rows, and that will give you the count of rows that you've got in the data at that particular time. Okay, and I noticed that I moved it when you merge with other sort of tables, it's sort of like a SQL join, so a left join onto a table, and if there's duplicates values in there, it's going to duplicate the value in the other table as well. And so when I did do the count rows, and I saw here that actually that wasn't 9994, that was 10,000 something. That happens after this merge query had happened, so I know that appeared in that particular product table. So I went to my product table and I then focused on my join. Now my join from there was based on the product ID to the product ID on the other table. So I had to look actually, well, is this value actually unique within the table? And we found that when we did do the group by, so we did a group by in here and we did a count rows by the product ID, and that showed us that actually there were some product IDs that had two separate entries in there as well. Okay, and that was how I was able to sort of diagnose that. Okay, hope that helps.
Awesome. That's some great troubleshooting tips here. I'm quite sure will save a lot of time for everyone here. I got a question here from Juan, which is, could you please provide the Excel files for us to practice?
Yeah, I might even do one better actually. I can even provide you with this file, this Power BI file that has got all the transformations in there as well. So if you can make that available for us, Adriano, on a link underneath the chat or somewhere, I'll provide the Excel file with the data in there, and I'll also find the Power BI provide the Power BI file with the sort of dimensions created already, so you can use that to then work backwards and understand how I've done that. And maybe watch over this again to sort of see how it's done.
All right, so we're going to address Juan's question by writing a share location where the file is located in the description section. So if you're watching this afterwards, you gotta click on, I believe it's called the show more, and it will expand. You'll see in there the resources, and I'll put in the section that talks about Sheb there. All right, with Sheb's information, etc. Okay, folks.
Yeah.
All right. Hang on a second. I know it's getting late for you here, so let me be brief here. What? Also the day. Thanks. Darren says, thanks for a great demo. Nice session from Reynaldo. Reynaldo says, notice suggestion, which is good. Could you please provide the, same thing. Also for the Excel files. Harry says, great, thank you. Thanks. Couldn't get fully the first time. Went through the troubleshooting. All right. Juliet became more clear. Juan saying great thanks and great content, guys, from Chris.
Yeah.
All right, Shep, can you change your camera
Cool.
there, please?
Yeah. Stop presenting. So hopefully my camera should appear.
All right. So, folks, thank you very much for making the time and being here with us. Also, remember check out the Power BI Fest 2021, November
Yeah,
20th,
definitely.
Saturday. Check it out over there. A lot of awesome, very awesome presentations. You will learn just as much as you did today. You know, with some amazing presenters such as Sheb. So Sheb, talk to me.
Yeah.
How was
Okay,
it?
okay.
You sound a little. Your voice sounds low.
I think I just need. Yeah, you know when you talk for a full hour
Okay.
without any water or green tea. I think a nice cup of green tea will sort of work after this. But no, it's really enjoyable. Enjoy that. It's been a while since I've been on a live event. And next week or next month actually, I'll be in front of people in Manchester as well, doing a presentation there as well. So that should be great. Getting back into sort of presenting in front of tons of people. Should be great. Pizza and drinks available. So it's always a good event at the Manchester Power BI user group as well. But yeah, definitely looking forward to this Power BI Fest. You know, the speakers that you've got lined up, the variety of speakers, you know, the background that each of them have got, and the different talks. And I mean, we've been looking at the sessions, haven't we? And some of the sort of sessions sounds really amazing. I think someone's even starting a business, aren't they, with Power BI or Power Platform, which which sounds very interesting indeed. So much to look forward to over the coming months, and something nice just to hit up before the sort of Christmas period.
Absolutely. I do have another question here from Soto. Is how to use AI for data modeling?
How to use AI for data modeling?
Yeah.
Um, so it's usually the other way around. You sort of use data modeling for AI. So creating sort of the data model as we did, and giving the perfect data model to Power BI is the best way to bring out the AI functions within Power BI. And we sort of demoed the sort of Q&A function there and the analyze features. And there's also things like distribution and analyzing that distribution between sort of dimensions as well, and giving it a dimension such as that sort of model. Power BI will just thrive on it. It'll be performance efficient. You know, users won't see the whirring and the whirring and the whirring, etc. You know, things will be slick and smooth. And so that's sort of part of the, you know, the whole sort of aspect of that as well. And hopefully, you know, the front end of Power BI, where you've got your right-click options and you analyze features and analyze your data sets, that's where all the AI features will sort of come out into play.
All right, all right. Uh, Thank you. That's good
Cool
information there.
beans.
And a couple of
Cool
things
beans.
also kind of related to that when you do the work. Sorry about that. When you do the work on, oh my, that on Q&A, that's a AI feature, but also when you first do the modeling and you start, you know, going through the options there, that's an AI implementation. I believe also the other. I don't think you covered that, but performance. I forgot the name that shows like the counts on the different columns,
The
etc.
performance analyzer.
There we go. Thank you. The performance
Yeah, so
analyzer.
that's a good point. Actually, let me just quickly sort of, I guess, go over that. Is when you use a performance analyzer, if we, you know, if you were to check, so use it. If you go to where's the view, performance analyzer here. So if we were to start recording and sort of look at the slices and look at the amount of milliseconds it uses to then sort of quickly cross highlight and cross filter a lot of these, if you compared it to the flat file you'd notice a difference in terms of the sort of milliseconds it takes to sort of filter and cross highlight and get that sort of visual display, because Power BI is thriving on this model where you can just zoom in and out using indexes and IDs to get the data. So you can actually, if you wanted to do something like that, you can go ahead and check and see the difference. You'll only see milliseconds, in terms of this data set, because it's quite small. But when you go into the millions and millions of rows of data, that's when you see the real benefit of the performance analyzer and other bits and pieces, and the Power BI data model as well. So it's a great shout, Adriano, on that.
Yeah, and it's related to what is being asked there. Let's take a look at here. So folks, let us know. I believe we have covered like all the questions. Just we're gonna hang out here for a minute or two. Make sure that
Yep.
If I missed something, you are able to drop it again. Remember to subscribe, comment on the video, show that you like, and hit the like button, and share the word, man. Share the word, and feel free to come back, take another look. We're gonna set up here to get the files available to you, so you can come in and practice and watch the video and all. So very interactive opportunity here for you all. And remember, Sheb, tell us more about. Sounds like people are interested on classes and learning more about it. So I believe it is some. Tell us about your offering there.
Yeah, so as I mentioned at the beginning, so I'm a sort of Power BI trainer as well, and I've sort of got some on sort of online courses available that will be coming to fruition shortly as well. So they'll be available on my website, and again, we'll sort of communicate that to you guys as well. But essentially, if you check my YouTube sort of channel out, there's a lot of cool stuff on there that you can use business-wise. But there'll be sort of full sort of courses coming out that you can sort of learn online on demand in your own time and your own convenience as well. And those will sort of teach you the key skills such as these as well, and how to sort of build to requirements and so on and so forth. So a lot of that stuff will be sort of coming through. But I also want to take the opportunity, if you don't mind, Adrian, to thank everybody, who's attended today and the comments you've left. I've read some of these and telling me that, it was a great presentation, great presenter, thanks, etc. So thank you, everyone, for joining. I appreciate you sort of taking the time out wherever you are, to watch this. I know some of you are in the UK and it is quite late as well. So hearing me drone on at this time of night probably is putting you to sleep. So, appreciate you all joining in and sort of sticking with us to the bitter end.
All right. I saw Fernando said he has a question, but I don't see the question.
You want you to guess?
There we go. Oh yeah, there we go. Sorry, Fernando, my bad. We missed it. That's why we asked you to please post again. The question is, if you sort before adding the surrogate key and an additional record appears, in your example, Adam Smith, that changed the key for the rest of the client. Does that have any effect in the model?
Not really, no, because it's still sort of indexing, it's still creating the sort of ID for each value, and you have to remember that when a refresh takes place and that sort of thing, the caching takes place quite often in Power BI as well, and cache gets cleared quite often as well. So it doesn't matter if the IDs change; it's the model that's to retrieve that data should be, in the sort of format it's in. The data inside it, unfortunately, doesn't get affected too much, because I think what perhaps you might be sort of thinking about is sort of indexes and that sort of thing as well, because in a SQL table, obviously if you add your indexes and redo your indexes, etc., it makes things a lot quicker. In Power BI, there isn't that option to be able to do that. And so just giving it an ID and an integer just makes it a lot quicker than being able to go through text values. So that ordering is just, that was just to sort of, I guess, order it by customer name, and just to say that you can actually do that if you wanted to. But otherwise, it would just order it in its own way anyway. And sort of that could be random as well. So it doesn't make any difference if you were to order it or not, especially when it comes to the model and reporting side of things.
All right, great. I know it's late for you. I believe we're reaching an end here. We
Yeah, yeah.
have covered a great amount of questions. Great to see the interest, folks. And I would like to thank Shep for making the time, staying up late. For him, it's tomorrow already, actually.
Nearly an hour to go.
It's just about that, just about,
Yeah, yeah.
just about tomorrow. And so, thank you very much for being here, as well as
Thank you for
to
having
all
me.
of you watching us here today. Thank you very much for making the time and be here with us. And potentially for some of you, it's already tomorrow as well. And I remember on some of the streaming, there was some people from like Australia, and they were like, "Oh no, man, it's morning. I'm having breakfast." you know, and it was like,
Brilliant,
yeah, it was like 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. They were like, "Yeah, we're having breakfast." I'm like, "All right,
brilliant.
all right, folks," and remember, like, subscribe, very important. Drop a comment. And
Yeah,
also, if you have a question, feel free to drop in the comment section. We'll follow up.
yep.
Any final
We will.
words for you?
No, it's been a pleasure. We shouldn't leave it too long till we do this again. So yes, definitely looking forward to the next time already. And this time, can we have it in person in Florida, please? Because I think that I'd prefer that.
Yes, yes, that would be
Yeah.
wonderful. That would be some definitely. I quite should enjoy it, principally if it's a winter. In your area, it's
No, no.
summer, and not summer, but the winter here it's a lot more amenable than the one you
Okay,
have.
I see. I
You
see.
know,
Okay. Okay.
for sure.
Cool. Cool.
All right. Hey, you take care there. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. And
Thank you.
just stay on the line. And folks, have a great day there. Remember, check out the section below, and you're going to see the files, also more information about the Power BI Fest. And look forward to see you all on our next presentation. Will be text analytics with Marcus, and will be on the 28th, if I'm not mistaken, in just 2 weeks away from it. Check out our meetup information below, and you will see where to register. Thank you.
Yep.
Have a great
Thanks,
way.
everyone.
See you all.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye bye.
All